Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Duran, and I'm the host of the Tech Lounge. And I have with me always, of course, Andrew Somerton. He's under the weather today, but I guess you're doing okay, Andrew.
I'm here. Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Great to be here, everybody. Nice to see you, Dan. Absolutely. I'm feeling a little bit. Dan said, listen, you can relax this afternoon, but you got to be in top health. So if I'm putting myself on mute because I'm coughing or I got my Neocitrin here to give myself feeling a little bit better, but I'm here with bells on and excited to talk to all of you that are in attendance and to learn a little bit as we do each week. So
Exactly.
great to be here, bud.
That's what I do all the time, man. When I have a demo or a meeting with a client, online meeting with a client, what I do is I just pump up the coffee, the Neocitron, all the meds and stuff like that, and then I'm like ready to go in the meeting for the meeting, and then after that I
You
completely
crash.
all day, at night and stuff like that. So yeah, that's. I'm glad that you actually made it. I know you've been sick. I was sick a couple of weeks ago. I had COVID and it wasn't very pretty. We have people on the line. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, of course. Get Cyber. Make sure you subscribe. And we have a very, very good
Absolutely.
I would say tutorial slash podcast today. We have so much material from all the activities that we do as a cybersecurity company, and like responding to this kind of stuff. Command and control. We're going to be talking about C2 today, what it is. I show you a few examples, and then we're going to get kind of in the on the weeds. I'm going to do a command control example on my machines, and just to show people how bad it is, because it's pretty bad, right?
Can be, for sure. Absolutely.
So we have people on the line.
We do. Let's
see who we have.
Hello. That's from Diego.
Hello,
hey, Diego.
from Diego Macastrion. And we have Gabriela as
Hello,
well.
Happy
So
Friday, Gabriela.
we open up the forum for you. So if you have any questions, make sure you post them online, and we're going to be able to display them, of course, on the chat. So let's get right into it. So I have a presentation here that I want to show you, and let me see if I can get to it. Let's see, to talk about a bit about command and control.
Absolutely.
All right, so is Gladstone showing the screen on online?
Yeah, we see it all. It's the network. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's suppose this is your network, right? And I'm going to show you kind of like what it is, what is command and control, and how it happens usually inside of a network. A network's a living enterprise, right? It's a living, entity that is always moving around, right? And you have a lot of things inside of your network. So you have things, for example, like endpoints, right? So all your computers, your servers, your mobile phones, your network devices like printers and routers and all of that stuff. And in there, you probably have things like antivirus or endpoint protection, XDR nowadays, EDR, so and extended and endpoint detection and response. You have app control, some sort of whitelisting. You have GPOs, you have updates, you have patching, you have all of that stuff for your endpoints. And then you also have things like email, right? Email is super important, right? And in there you have, for example, secure email gateways. You have anti-spam, anti-phishing, anti-personation, and all of that good stuff when it comes to cybersecurity. Now, why am I showing you this? The reason I'm showing you this is because command and control is a tactic, right? And it stems from the fact that hackers want to get into your computers and they want to be able to retain control. And this is exactly what I'm showing you. But at the very beginning, before I show you command and control, I got to show you all the other security stuff that usually a company has in their environment. Right. So then we have things like DNS, for example, like DNS filtering, and I'll show you what DNS filtering is as well, web shields and all of that. And then you have the cybersecurity stuff that comes with the human component, like GRCs or governance, risk and compliance, ISPs, information security policies, cybersecurity awareness training, simulation, and all of that. At the very end, you have something called the firewall. And in the firewall, firewalls are very important, right? It's your perimeter security. So it stops for anything that's coming from the outside into the company, right? But all of these, and as you know, today we're talking about a phishing attack, Andrew, and that was like
Yeah,
crazy from one of our clients that it didn't happen to them, but it happened to one of their clients,
exactly.
and all of these security measures are susceptible to hacking, to being hacked.
Absolutely. That's why layered security, so we always talk about that, is so important, right? Because nothing is foolproof. It's about mitigating risk. So you're 100% right. They all have vulnerabilities or concerns.
Yes. And so, for example, you might have like a 0-day attack that is taking over one of the endpoints, one of your computers, and then it goes through the firewall. You might have an email, like let's say an executable or a Word document with a macro getting through the anti-spam and then getting to the network. Same with the DNS filtering. You might have like a bad like extension, or like a DNS poisoning, for example. And then the human component, we all know it's one of the weakest links when it comes to cybersecurity. The humans get deceived left, right, and center. It's much easier to hack a human nowadays than to hack a machine, right? Because of
For
all
sure.
the security that's behind the technology and stuff. So what happens? What happens when one of these points fails? What happens is basically that the firewall cannot do anything because the
Right.
threat, it is activated from inside of the network, and you get this, right? So this is the typical command and control tactic as part of the MITRE attack, and I'm going to show you that in a bit. But this
Right.
is what happens: you get a device that is infected, for example, with a piece of malware that is communicating with the mothership, or the bot, the bad hacker bot, and the bot has complete control over that machine, right? And it bypasses the firewall, it bypasses all the security perimeter, like counter activities that you have, and technology, right? So it bypasses that and then infects the network. And this is the problem, because this happens without you noticing. Right? So imagine you have like 100 people in your company, employees, or 50 people, and all of a sudden this happens, but you have no idea that this is going on, because the malware was able to evade all the controls. They were able to like turn off all the endpoint protection and antivirus, firewalls, and all of that, and now they have complete control over that machine. So then
Yeah.
what happens? People think that, okay, it's not like the movies that, like you get hacked today and then you ransomware in a couple of hours, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
and so as the time goes by, so let's say hours, like weeks, days, weeks, right? The hackers have a foothold over the network, and they start pivoting from place to place. They start building their foothold, and they use a lot of tactics that are pretty, or techniques that are pretty stealthy, right? Like they encrypt traffic. They do a lot of stuff, obfuscation, a lot of obfuscation going on. So all of this
Absolutely.
is happening under people's noses, right? So when you
Dan,
have
just a heads up, just Andrew, everybody's knows. Just your microphone is crackling a little bit. I put myself on mute to see if it was me, and it's not. I think it's coming from you. So I don't know if there's a little adjustment. But if you can adjust it, great. But if not, it's not too bad. But just a heads up.
okay, I don't know. Can
That's
you
better.
can you hear me properly?
That's better right now. Yeah, I'm not
It
sure what you
might be
did, but that's
your okay. All right, so
it's
it
better
might
now.
be okay. Perfect. Excuse me. So this happens, like it doesn't happen right away, right? It happens days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, right? And then at the very end, this is kind of like the end point or the end, or the detonation point for the hackers. What they do is they detonate the bomb, right? Like virtual
Right.
bomb, and they get a company ransomware, right? And that is the basically how they're able to move around the network using the command and control tactic. I hope that helps a little bit in terms of what it is, and I'll show you kind of what the problem is.
Mhm.
If you look at this number here, so right here, it, 287 days is the average day to identify and contain a data breach. And this is coming from the cost of a data breach report in 2021 from IBM Security, right?
It's crazy.
And it's 287 days. That is nuts, right?
Yeah.
When I see that a you have a malware piece inside of your one of your endpoints, and there is a command and control going on situation, and I say that it doesn't take hours, it takes months, this is it, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is going right under the noses of your sysadmins and your IT security and everybody. And this is kind of like the problem, because once you give control to the hackers, they can move around and they
Yeah.
can do whatever they want inside of the network. And it takes time to be able to pawn different machines and servers. So that's why it is 287 days, the average number of days to identify and contain a data breach. All right, so we have. Do we have more people on the chat? Yes, we
We
do.
do. Quite a few people saying
Maybe
hi.
yes, you can put some of our guest comments in there. Oh, he already showed it. If you have any questions, any comments, any questions, Gladstone, make sure you put them on the screen as well. All right, so if you look at this other slide, you'll see that the average total cost of a ransomware breach is $4.62 million.
It's crazy.
So back in the day, command and control was done for the purposes of crypto mining, for example, or having DDoS attacks and creating, like zombies, having different zombies inside of a company and then using those zombies to attack other computers around. It was used a lot for, for example, malware advertising as well.
Mhm.
And hackers started moving into ransomware and using command and control for ransomware, because ransomware is very lucrative, right?
Right.
Very lucrative. As you can see, 4.62 million dollars is the average cost of a ransomware attack. And we can see left, right, and center that hackers are using this type of stuff. We have a comment in there,
Mhm.
questions as well. So Alex Leslie, he says 287 days is a lot of time for a hacker to be creeping around in there. Yeah,
It's crazy.
I'd say yes, 287 days. That is quite a lot, of course. Who else do we have in there?
And you know what? And to that point, I think that's where, us being in the business, and we have lots of partners, and we have lots of organizations who we meet with, and they think they have all those layer securities that you indicated on the slideshow at the beginning, but they don't necessarily have that network protection or the ability to see network penetration, a network attack in real
Yep.
time. And that's the biggest concern, right? 287 days, they're sitting there going, oh, we're protected, we're okay. They don't see them. But to Alex's point, and that's forever. Just think of what they can do in that timeline, and to the point where they actually, say push the button, and all of a sudden it's a ransom attack. It's unbelievable.
Yes, absolutely. It is it's unbelievable, and it's not getting any better. You can see that from 2015 to 2021, it is increasing, right? So it's not like the technology is getting any better, but we have one technology that works wonderfully with this type of stuff, which I will show you in a bit. And trust me, you're gonna like this. I think it's very, very useful. Let's talk about. I think Alex Leslie has another question in there. Maybe you can put that on the screen. He asked, "Does a hacker being in a network for 287 days give them even more power in a ransomware attack than if they had been in the network for less time?" This is the average, right? It doesn't mean that they're going to take that amount of days, right? So
Right.
in a lot of cases, and what we've seen in the wild is that some companies security is very poor, very weak, and it takes 7 days or it takes 14 days or maybe a month to get ransomware. The entire company, they get access to the domain controller and access to all their active directories, and then they're able to crawl and then inject their ransomware encryptors everywhere in the company within a very short time. Then we have other attacks that are much longer than 287 days. right? Where there's a lot of cybersecurity in the company. Usually, billion-dollar companies, they have a lot of security in place. So hackers are very, very conservative, and they're
Slowly.
very slow at moving from
Exactly.
target to target. They know they have control of one machine or one endpoint or whatever it is. Now they need to pivot into another one, but they don't want to make noise. They want to be very quiet when they are doing this. And then after that, boom, they still target the company. Very good question. Very, very
Absolutely.
good question. All right. So what is command control? So C2 is called C2 or CNC sometimes, right? C2 consists of techniques that adversaries or hackers may use to communicate with the systems under their control within a victim network or system, right? Then the hackers commonly attempt to mimic normal expected traffic to avoid detection. And they do that by doing a lot of obfuscation. When they do the transmission of data from place to place, from one machine to the other, they usually they encrypt that. They encrypt that. They use obfuscation, and they're able to bypass a lot of the security countermeasures that companies have. Right. So
Yeah, and
that
question for you in regards to that. If someone does breach the network, an individual, say a ransomware for hire or what have you, because there's a lot of services like there out there, does the person in the network necessarily, are they affiliated with the mothership, let's call it, or they could they theoretically be two separate entities, or are they typically always the same?
No. Okay. So you're talking about ransomware as a service. So
Right, and
there's
then the mothership, right, with command and control,
yeah.
like the
So
connection.
command and control is an infrastructure.
Right,
Okay. So think about servers. A lot of servers, and they need a lot of power to be, like, and a lot of maintenance, and it is an infrastructure piece, right?
right,
The and what's going on is that back in the days, you used to have like these cartels, the big hacking groups doing all the ransomware, right?
right,
So they needed to have that type of infrastructure, and then they needed to have the phishing infrastructure and all the tools that phishing attacks use, and they needed to have everything that has to do with the actual ransomware piece, so the development of software, executables,
wow, okay,
macros, and all of that. So all of these pieces are entities in themselves, right? To
right,
be able to
right,
manufacture this big infrastructure that's called ransomware. Then what they did is they started partnering up with different bad companies, other hacker groups that they
right.
specialize in one activity. So now you have like a consortium of bad actors that are gathered together doing, each of them specializing in different things.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then on top of that, you have the ransomware as a service, like
So,
Revolt, for example, or Network Walker, for example, ransomware, where they put this online as a pay as you go kind of thing, like a membership
it's crazy.
software that you can pay, 200, 300, $800 per month as a hacker, and then you have access to all of these tools. And then when you are able to ransom a company,
Right.
then you get a cut of the pie,
Okay.
right? So small time hackers are taking advantage of this membership that are being given out by the companies, right? By the big hacker groups,
So
which is
that's why hacking has become so prevalent in the industry now, because so many people potentially can do it. You don't have to have that big infrastructure. You have pieces.
exactly. And
Wow.
you know what? I actually published an article last week, I think, about this guy from Gatineau, Quebec, a couple of weeks ago, that got he got sentenced to, I think, 20 years or 20 something years to prison because he was part of the Netwalker. He was one of the affiliates from the Netwalker ransomware group, right? And
Right.
it was all over the news, right? This guy from Quebec, and his house was like just a typical house, and in the basement they found
Unbelievable.
like millions of dollars, and like in crypto and all kinds of stuff. It was
Wow.
pretty bad, man.
Hiding in
So
plain sight.
hiding in plain sight, absolutely. And
Wow.
because the way you do it is through proxies, right? So you can
Yeah.
proxy to, I think he was proxying to France, and then from France to I think I think it was Florida, where
Okay.
he got caught. And yeah, now he's in jail, right?
Wow.
So we have a question in there.
Yeah, a couple questions. Dan, you
Yeah.
mentioned
So
okay, go ahead.
he says, Dan, you mentioned cartels. Can you name some of these groups? Okay, so you have a lot of them. So like Conti, Netwalker. I just talk about Revil. Revil is it's one of the biggest ones and the most insidious ones that are out there. There's a whole whack. I mean, there's so many, and you can actually see them right here in the MITRE ATT&CK. You can actually see the groups. So if I click on groups here, you can see the different groups, and there's so many of them, and they have them with all cataloged and stuff, right? So you get Panda, Aquatic Panda, and these are the different groups that they're out there. I'm not sure how many, but it is quite a few 130 something groups, different groups that do all this bad stuff, right? Yeah. So yeah, good question. Go to MITRE, attack.mitre.org, and then you'll be able to see all the groups. We have another question from Alex again. He asks, are people with ransomware as a service accessing this technology on the dark web? Yes, 100%. Yeah, so I've seen them. I've gone myself to see the forums, right? So there's entire forums, man. It's just freaking crazy because I was looking at, and the thing is like, on the dark web, there's a lot of forums, right? And sometimes not just on the dark web, but on the real, web, surface web, and people ask questions, right? So like, I'm trying to get this victim. What can I do? And then people in the community support these hackers, and they go like, "No, this is what you got to do. This is the steps," and they're able to give advice for free. And sometimes even in Facebook, because I'm part of like a whole bunch of Facebook groups, and they ask questions about. They don't necessarily say there's a victim involved, or they don't show who it is, but just ask about what are the next step for this and stuff like that. And people comment in there, so there's a community around this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty bad. So over here we see this is the attack, the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And when you get hacked, or if you want to see, for example, IOCs or indicators of compromise, or the indicators of attack, you can see, for example, the different things that the hackers do, right? So you can change, for example, change the color of this, and then you can build a chain until you get to this, right here, this tactic. So these are all the tactics, and inside of command and control there's 16 different tactics. So this is how hackers can get control of a computer, a system, a network. They can use application layer protocols like HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, communication of removable media. So, for example, plugging in a USB, data encoding, data obfuscation, and it goes on and on and on. So there's so many ways. Remote access software like AnyDesk. We see a lot of this in ransomware attacks. People or hackers using legitimate software like AnyDesk or TeamViewer, RDP connections and stuff like that, web services. So all of these are kind of like the way the hackers get into the systems or the networks, and they're able to do command and control. Is there a question?
Yeah, Diego has a question. In command and control, somehow related to programmers such as TeamViewer. I've always wondered how TeamViewer works.
Oh, yes. Well, that I just mentioned that, right? So one of the tactics in this, one of the techniques in this tactic is the remote access, right?
Great.
So remote access comes in the form of a software piece, usually what's called RDP, right? So remote protocol, right? So remote desktop protocol, which is a Windows, like if you're working from home and you need to remote into your machine at the office, that's how you do it, using RDP, right? However, there's a lot of software out there, like as I said, LogMeIn, AnyDesk, TeamViewer, that you can do this remote into your computers. But the problem with those is that when hackers hack a machine and they're able to see that there is a, let's say, any desk inside of the in the computer, they're going to piggyback on any desk and initiate connections to the office or whatever, right? To other points inside of the network. I hope that answered the questions. We have
Hope so.
some of the tools that are used in command and control. So, for example, we have this one. This is a Cobalt Strike, right? Cobalt Strike is a very famous command and control or C2 framework, and you can see that. You might say, Dan, but why is this on the public? Why is it not, like in the dark web?
Right.
Well, because if you think about it, these are remote desktop or remote protocol applications. So they are um, they're legal, right? Especially like Cobalt Strike, right? So Cobalt Strike is a pen testing tool,
Right.
and just like any pen testing tool, it can be used for good,
Or bad.
but it can also be used for bad, right? So, and I know in the wild there you can actually download. You can see here, for example, the pricing. The pricing is $5,000 or $6,000 per user for a license per year, right? So, pen testing companies, they or red team, companies, they buy the license and they use it to increase the security of companies,
Right.
right? That's why they use it. But then the hacker groups can also buy them and use it to attack networks, right?
Right.
Which is and it has like all the, you can see here, for example, coming from this attacker into this machine and then pointing this other machine and this two other machines, and until they get to a domain controller and stuff like that. So they have like a interactive GUI, right? So a UI that where you can see what's going on, and so it is not all coding, coding. This is actual, like this visualizer that you can see the stuff that's going on in there. It can be fantastic or pentamistic.
It's a
I have
pun.
no idea what he's
I
saying,
know,
but
me neither, but it's a pun, he says. I'm not sure either.
yeah, so this is the most used right nowadays. There's also a whole bunch of other ones that are coming out on board. So, for example, Sliver. I put an article about Sliver
Mm,
because I do use myself Sliver for doing pen testing. Amazing tool for keeping control or doing C2 campaigns and red teaming campaign. The thing about Sliver and why, for example, I would use Sliver over Cobalt Strike is because it is free. I love things that are free, right? Open source. So if you go to GitHub, for example, you can see that it was updated like 3 days ago, right? The whole entire thing, and they have all the kind of like information on how to install it and all of that stuff, right? So very it is complex. It's not. I'm not going to lie. This is not easy to install. I mean, it is easy to install and then run, but then the commands, you got to learn a lot on how to do that, right? So,
right.
but this is open source. Cobalt Strike, you got to pay $6,000, right? So, and then you have other things like, for example, Nighthawk,
Mhm.
that is basically taking over Cobalt Strike um, because of the capability. So these things, man, they're evolving, right? Like all these tools, they evolve so much that is, like even putting code on that terminal is just like that's obsolete now. That's like archaic, right? All of this stuff is,
Absolutely.
yeah. If I go to the MDSec, you can see the pricing for Nighthawk is $7,500
US.
or $10,000 US, right? Which is pretty expensive, man. And that's crazy. And they
It
have
is, yeah.
tutorials and all kinds of stuff, right? So, all right. So that's it. So let me show you how it works. Any questions out there? I see a lot of people are commenting.
I think they had a
Adrian,
little they had a little banter back and forth with Alex's joke and Adrian and stuff like that, but I think we posted it all, so no questions yet. Guys, don't be shy to ask questions because this is pretty important stuff. So I mean, command control and how it's working and how basically you can help protect yourself. It's important. So don't hesitate. No question's a bad question. Here we go. Hey, Dan.
Yes. Hey, Dan, talking about free stuff, it's not dangerous to prefer free stuff. All we know the free doesn't exist at all. Well, okay, so it really depends on what you're doing, right? So
Yeah.
um, if you're downloading scripts and you don't know what you're downloading, you don't know what the scripts are doing and all of that stuff, it could be dangerous. There's a lot of code on GitHub, for example, that I find that it's not really good. It does all the things that it shouldn't do. um, when you say free stuff, I'm not talking about pirated stuff. Okay, so going to like having a let's say BitTorrent and downloading software that is pirated, but it's free because it's pirated. That's a no-no, especially when you're using Windows machines, right? So it is not very good to do that. But there's a lot of things that are really good that are free or open source. I rather say open source than free, right? What else do we have in there? I hope that answers your question. In your experience, what is the most type of attack? Phishing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100% phishing is the most type of the most common type of attack, and there's two types of phishing, right? I mean, there's many types, like
Yeah.
spear phishing and whaling and all of that. But I'm talking about the techniques. The first one would be malware downloads, right? So for example, somebody sends a link, they click on the link, they download a shortcut, for example, and then with that it looks like a PDF. The user clicks on that a couple of times, and then it's downloading software from the net and then infecting the computer.
Right.
So software downloads are the most common. The second one would be harvesters, right? So like you click on the link, goes to a landing page that has a username and password, usually like a Microsoft 365. You enter your credentials and you're giving your credentials to the hacker. So
Right.
those are the two main common types of phishing attacks when it comes to techniques. There is a lot of types of phishing attacks. You have spear phishing. We were looking at that today. Spear phishing, typo. It's called typo squatting. Typo squatting is when, for example, a domain, so Rhino, for example, cybersecurity, or Amazon, for example, a hacker creates a domain or registers that domain, but it's a little different. Instead of saying Amazon, it might have two A's in there.
Exactly.
And then they use email to try to get people to see that it's Amazon and do stuff, right? So that's and usually it's the words or the letters that are you can in your brain.
Yeah. Like a B and a D. Like you can reverse them, but they look the same, but they don't. It's
Exactly. Like
yeah.
a B and a D, for example, especially if you're like me, a little dyslexic, then you don't notice, and then you're like, okay, B or D, or an M and an N, or two N's, right, or stuff like that. That is very very hard to detect. That yeah, we saw that today, and it was pretty crazy. All right,
Yeah.
so are there any questions in there?
There's one here.
I
This
like
is
free
just a
stuff, like free
just a
food and stuff.
that says Adrian being silly. What should one do if they dispute into clicking into on a link from the phishing email?
Sorry,
Sorry.
what should one do if they're duped into clicking on
Yeah,
a link from a phishing email?
phishing email. Yeah.
Yeah, so it does happen a lot, right? So
Yeah.
what if you click on the link and you don't know what's going on? Like if you click multiple times and nothing happens, obviously there's something happening in the background. So
Right.
you have to alert your IT security on your MSP or whoever is in charge, right? So um you got to tell them right away, because time is of the essence when it comes to cybersecurity. Faster they can isolate the machine, that they
For
can,
sure.
and they can do like um reconnaissance. If you see things weird that are happening on the screen, alert your IT team right away.
Yeah.
Right away.
Don't be scared because you're going to get in trouble or something. You tell them right away. If everybody makes mistakes, it's important, as Dan alluded to. Speed is everything. You're better off to tell them and have them take care of it immediately than say, "Oh, it's going to be okay," and no one forgets about it. Tell them right away.
Yes, exactly. All right. So let's suppose I'm going to log into one of my machines here, and this is I'm remoting into a Windows machine. So you can see here in the background there is a Windows machine, right? So this is Windows 10, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to power up my. Hopefully, it's going to work since we're live here. So in here, I have this is a, let's say, a hacker machine. So this I'm remoting into a box. A Linux box is a Kali Linux box on online, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to initiate a listener. Okay. So when I do this, you can see that I'm listening on port 8444, right? So let's just wait for a couple of seconds. You have some coffee. I'm going to drink some coffee here.
Okay. Sorry that my cough became a little contagious. I keep trying to mute myself.
So you can see here that I initiated the listener, and now I have a listener going. So what that means is that I can send agents, or they're called agents, for example, or beacons, right? Beacons to people by email or whatever, and whoever clicks on it, I'm listening at all times, right? Whoever clicks on it, I'm going to establish a connection, a remote connection, right? So I have initiated the listener, and let's suppose this is the victim here, right? And if I go to the email, right? So let's say this is a spoofed email, right? So Dan Duran, his email got compromised, and then he started spoofing people, right? So, and this victim got an email, says, "Hello there. Here's the software that you requested. Download and click to bypass the security. Forever yours, Mr. Robert," or whatever. You know, usually they have a lot of mistakes on the wording, whatever it is. So now, if I click as the victim, if I click on this, right, and then I download this, right? Oh, did I? What happened? What happened there? Hold on. Let me do it again. Click. I think I deleted it. That's why. Keep. And I bypass the, like the security. So let's suppose you have endpoint detection in here, or some sort of antivirus, and it bypasses it, right? It's obfuscate. I'm not obfuscating this, so obviously my Windows is going to say, "Oh, are you sure you want to run this?" But some people, even they get these warnings and they just click on run anyways. Who cares? Let's run it. So as soon as I click on run, you can see that nothing is happening, right? So if I do this, then the machine is doesn't look infected at all, right? But if I go into my hacker box, you can see here that I have already a shell. So if I do a shell, I'm inside the Windows machine. You can see here that I'm inside already, right? So and then from here, this is all automated process, right? Like the malware, what it does as soon as it connects, and then it starts to call other places in the world to download and deploy other software and build up a foothold. They do a lot of things, like, for example, retrieval of hashes. So, for example, if I run, say, I'm going to run Finding Nemo, right? So, like Finding Nemo, okay, so what my little script Finding Nemo is doing is dumping all the hashes and passwords from this Windows machine into my hacker box, right? So that's what it's doing right now, right? So if I do, for example, run Dora, like Dora the Explorer, right? Then what it's doing is starting to do a whole bunch of commands, like ARP, for example, finding all the information that has to do with this computer right away, right? So all the privileged information, right? The groups, the hashes. I'm able to get all of that stuff right away, and also see all the programs that this computer is running. So, for example, if I do, let's see, what else can I get from here? I can see that RDP is open. So now, since this computer has RDP on, I can piggyback on RDP to initiate connections with the computer. If it has Tor open, then I can use Tor. And there is my Trojan. You can see right there that is also running on the background in here, right? So there's a PID for that. and then I can do, for example, run Snoopy, and Snoopy is going to start getting all the information about everybody out there in the network, right? So, yeah, so this is all automated,
Right.
right? Like it happens. I'm doing it manually, right? But once you download a piece of software or malware, it's going to start doing this automatically right
Right.
away. We have
And Dan,
questions
this is all. Yeah, we have a couple of questions for this. Is all pertains to that the ability to pivot and take their time and manipulate the network when they're in the network for those 287 days. Is that accurate?
Yes,
They're
exactly.
doing all this, right? Yeah. So just imagine what they can do and what they can take control over when they don't know you're there. And you look how fast you're doing this. Imagine what you could do, and when you have no one looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the reason why computers slow down.
Right.
So like sometimes you get a computer that's infected and it slows down. It's because there's a lot of activity that is being done on the background
Right.
automatically. PowerShells being dropped and executed, and a lot of stuff that's going on the background um, to be able to get a better foothold for the hackers and then move across the network and stuff like that. They create admin accounts, and then they are able to log into the admin accounts without you even noticing. So there's a
Right.
lot of heavy stuff. Data exfiltration takes a lot of memory, right? So for example, they start exfiltrating data from the network.
Hmm.
That's going to slow down your computer.
For sure.
Sometimes slows it down so much that it just crashes, right? All right, let's answer some of the
Yeah.
questions.
A couple questions. Yeah.
What about keyloggers? How can you get infected with that? It's the same process, right? So
Mhm.
the hackers, that's one of the things that the hackers do. So if a hacker gets a command and control, a malware inside, like it's called rat, right? A rat.
Mhm.
So a remote access Trojan, right? They get it into your computer and they're able to install a keylogger. Because imagine you're a hacker and you're trying to get into somebody's computer. You get in, but you're not able to find passwords or hashes. You're not able to decrypt hashes. So what's the next best thing to do is to put a keylogger in there. So when the victim is entering passwords inside of whatever software it is, you are able to obtain that data without you having to kill yourself or like bang your head on the wall, basically. So hackers do install keyloggers on machines, so they're able
Right.
to extract the passwords from the victims by them
Exactly.
typing passwords, right? What else do we have in there? What is the meaning of the fancy word obfuscate?
That's good. Yeah.
Obfuscate is basically is the process of hiding whatever your text, your clear text is, by using encryption and decryption, right? Or base 64, for example, which is in an encryption or obfuscation algorithm, right? So basically, instead of saying hello, you can obfuscate that by creating a string of numbers and characters that it to the plain eye it won't mean anything.
Right.
All right, so we have somebody there saying hi,
Nice.
hi sir, clear as mud. The whole
There's mud. Just basically, it's just a different way of writing information down, so someone doesn't know exactly what you're saying.
exactly. So all right, so let's look at the. I downloaded a piece of software, a malware in here. So let's um let me take a look. So I downloaded this executable, and I'm using my Mac machine, my Apple
We had a,
machine. So don't
you know,
do.
that's funny. It's funny that you're saying that, Dan. Your Mac machine. There's a question there about Mac. So before you do that, where's that question about Mac? I thought I saw it somewhere. There we
Yeah,
go.
if you're yes, if you're using, should I get a Mac? I hear they don't get viruses. Well, nowadays they do, right?
Okay, for sure.
Before it was like 99%, it was like Windows machines that get attacked because the market share for Windows is so big. But nowadays hackers are targeting um they're attacking Mac machines and Linux also, right? So if you use a Linux, they're starting to attack a Linux. And no, okay, so here's the things. Mac or Apple, it's always fixing problems now. Like every week there's
Right.
the new update for the Mac, and I see it. Like I see it on my Mac as well when I go to my about and I look for I'm looking for the latest updates. I constantly update my Mac because there's 0-day attacks and there are things that are being patched, right? um, Apple is doing a somewhat decent job, right? Do you need antivirus on a Mac? I don't think it's not needed, but there's a few out there that if you want to install, go right ahead. I don't use any antivirus on my Mac yet. I don't think it's that dangerous. And for example, an executable EXE, I can't run it. I cannot run it on a Mac, right? So that's why I use my Mac to download malware and then do analysis, right? Which is pretty good.
Right.
We have somebody sending us
I'm
some love from
Yeah,
India.
from India. Yeah, so I was gonna read. I just reading that. I'm from India.
Technify Samarth. He says,
Love,
I am from India and love from India.
love back at you.
Back at you, buddy. Make sure
Welcome.
you subscribe. Make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe to Get Cyber. That's where we are. That's where we do all of our videos on cybersecurity. YouTube.com/Get Cyber. All right, so let me show you a few things. So I downloaded this virus, and when you go to the website, you should have DNS protection. And you can see here, for example, this IP address, right? This IP address here was blocked by webroot, right? So I do have webroot on my machine. And let's see if I can see it here. Where are your webroot? Here, Web Shield, right? So this site was blocked, right? Because of webroot. And if I just bypass this, because I can unlock and continue, right? It's going to download this executable, right? So if you're in a Windows machine, you should not ever do that. I do it because of I want to analyze viruses. So I uploaded this virus to VirusTotal. You can see here, and this is the hash. Sorry, this is the the SHA-2 hash, I believe. And you can see here that 23 out of 72 antivirus engines already dinged this as bad, right? So if I go down here, you can see that Avast, Silence, and all of these Microsoft have dinged this as a Trojan, right? 32 Trojan, right? This is the Rankos family, I believe. But there's a whole bunch of other, like McAfee, for example, Palo Alto, Panda, Trend Micro, that have not detected this yet, right? So this is what I'm talking about when you have an antivirus and the malware bypasses the antiviruses because it has not been detected by other. If you are, for example, running McAfee might not detect this virus, and it just goes through, right? So, for example, Komodo, if you have Komodo, it hasn't been detected. So if you download this file, it can infect your computer and it can bypass your antivirus. So are antiviruses better than others? Yes, absolutely. There's a whole bunch of really good antiviruses. There's a whole bunch of really bad antiviruses, right? And sometimes the good antiviruses don't detect this. So it is kind of like a hit and a miss. And that's the main problems with antiviruses, man. That's just crazy. If I look at the details, for example, it gives you the MD5, the SHA-1, etc., all the stuff, and it gives you the all the information about this virus, right? And over here in the relations, I will see, I think it's behavior. Behavior, I will see the MITRE attack tactics that this piece of malware uses. We have a question?
We did. Well, this one is the gentleman from India. It's just I'm also subscribed. He subscribes, bro, and I'm also a certified ethical hacker. That's amazing. Well, again, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here with us.
It's a good certification to have this CEH certified ethical hacker. Absolutely, 100%. So, congrats on that accomplishment. Absolutely. What else do we have in there? Is it true that exist viruses that can damage your computer forever, not just affecting the hard disk, but also, let's say, processor? Most viruses won't do that, right? So they will, you can wipe your computer clean and then reformat it, and then you're up and running. There's one type of virus that is an APT, so active persistent threat, right? That is used by governments. And I don't know if you remember 2011, it's called Statnex. It's Statnex, I think it's called.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're
Static,
talking about.
Statix or
It's,
oh man,
yeah,
it just flew like okay. Anyways, but what happened in there is that the government was using this piece of malware to make processes really and RAM to jack up the RAM, jack up the CPU on mainframes and servers. So what it did at the very end is it was able to blow up those servers, right? Because they were heat up, and it was slowly like a drip campaign to make sure that to get the servers to heat up until they actually malfunction. The hardware actually malfunction. All right, so we got so much to cover. There's so much information about this type of stuff. So if we look at this virus, right, it's malware, pretty bad. And if I look at the MITRE attack tactics and techniques, you'll see that there's execution, right? And it gives you the technique, the tactic number, and then privilege escalation, and injects a whole bunch of stuff. Defensive evasion, obfuscated files, and it goes on and on. And then you will see here what it does. So credential access, so it does operation OS credential dumping. So it tries to get all the hashes from that computer and also from the network. Discovery, and then if we go down, command and control. There you go. So it does this virus does command and control. It does C2 URLs, so it connects to IPs out there, right, to be able to download and do stuff. It performs DNS lookups. It downloads files from the web server. It does a lot of that kind of stuff, right? So you can see that it does command and control. And over here in VirusTotal, this is really cool. They have a graph right here. If you click on in the graph, you'll see this thing, right? And you can see here that this is the virus, and it's connecting to a lot of IP addresses, man. IP addresses in domains. These are all the domains that are that it's talking to, right? So it's not just one domain. It doesn't just connect to one domain, but it connects to a lot of different servers out there to do different things. So it's not just going to download one piece of software from one place. It can connect to a whole bunch of them. So you can see here that all of these are hacked websites, for example, that has this piece of software, and it's just massive. It's like a web of stuff,
look
right?
at the countries. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, if we look at the countries, we'll see a whole bunch of countries. What country is this? Hong Kong. Oh, wow. I don't remember this flag. I haven't looked at my flags in a long time. So you see, for example, Japan. You see, Russia, and as well as Ukraine, and all of these countries like United States, Germany, and stuff like that. So it's contacting all of those IP addresses, France, and Australia, and stuff like that, right? So yeah, so if you are interested, just go to VirusTotal, upload your file, and then you'll be able to start doing this stuff and seeing what it does, right? So pretty cool stuff, but pretty bad stuff. This is AnyRun. So I also ran this virus through AnyRun. So if I click on restart, for example, and now I'm interacting with this machine. So this is a Windows 7 machine. Right, so it is running the virus right now. It's going to start the VM. See, you can see here that it's downloading the virus. You give it a second. There you go. Now it's pending. Come on, and you can see that I there you go. So I'm going to run this virus. So I'm going to click on run, and run anyways. I'm going to minimize this. And these are all the activities that the virus is doing right now. So I'm using this. AnyRun is like a sandbox, so you can upload the viruses in here and test them out and see what kind of stuff they do on the machine. And you can see here that it is doing a lot of funky stuff, right? So it is communicating and it's dumping files. You can see that this file was dumped in there. Let me just add time. There you go. A little more time. In execution, for example, right here. Yeah, so let's leave this running and see what happens, right? Because I put 2 minutes in there.
Perfect.
I also ran it through Intercer. This is analyze.intercer. You can create an account for free and then upload the virus in here. You can see that this is the rank OS family. You can see all the information about this this particular virus, the sample, the samples, and all of that stuff, strings, capabilities. Right, so it's a lot of information. Either attack, the behavior, for example, all of that. It's in here. Agent Tesla. There it is. Rank OS, generic malware. Yeah. So yeah, still running. I'll just leave it run, but that's crazy. You can analyze the virus, right, and see what it does, and then that will help you out on how you can do a lot of the analysis of viruses. All right. So do we have anybody else?
A couple little comments, but no questions. I don't think. I think I don't know if Gladstone, you want to put any of those up? Yeah, go ahead and put it up.
Sure.
I think it's just a hats off to Dan.
Thank you, sir, for this valuable knowledge. Hats off to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate, and I hope you have a fantastic day as well. In India, it's probably like nighttime over there. So big shout out to India. So yeah, so here are some of the things that it's doing. So for example, it's connecting to a network, right? It is a known threat, and it it's doing the configuration, right? So here it also connects to this other network, right? And executables files are dropped into the computer to deploy and all of that. So through the analysis of the virus, these are the things that it's going to do. So what some of the things? Oh, look at this! It's connecting to all of these. Yeah. So it's connecting to all of these Windows updates and stuff, right? So those are probably processes that are just happening on the box. So yeah, so one thing that I wanted to discuss too, when I dropped the virus, let me see, that was like how long ago? Probably 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
No, maybe, yeah, halfway through.
Yeah. So when I dropped the virus and I was able to do the CNC to our machine, this is our Rhino box, one of our demo network intrusion detection systems as part of our managed detection and response. You can see that all the servers are running, right? And the monitoring system is running. And you can see this little heaps in here, right? And if I go down the page, I can see, for example, that one of the machines got infected with an executable, right? So Metasploit. So this is why it's so important to have a managed detection response and a network intrusion detection system in your system, because you can see over here that if I go to VirusTotal, viruses are not stopped by all the antivirus agents. In fact, this virus is only stopped by 23 out of 72. So if you have, for example, any of these, let's say Komodo antivirus, it won't stop this virus from entering your network. So you need another type of defense, which is a network intrusion detection system, and through an MDR, like managed detection and response, like what we do at Rhino Cybersecurity, for our agents or our analysts to be able to see this emergency alerts and be able to isolate right away from the system, right? So if I go down the page, I can see that this is the file that was dropped, right, and that infected the machine, and this is the URL that came from. This is my server online. You won't be able to access it. All the ports are closed on this, so good luck with that. And then it infected this machine over here, right? So this is the importance of having manage
So
detection and response.
so important. I think that, I mean, hit the nail on the head, Dan. And we've talked about that several times. I mean, we talk about layered security, but I think that's a part of the, big part of companies' mindset is they feel that they have an MSP, they have an IT department, they have all these endpoint detections and all these cybersecurity awareness training, etc. But they're not being able to see inside a network per se. And if it's in there, it's very, very detrimental to their network. And that's where you're seeing a lot of companies, I think, getting hacked. So very, very important you have something like this in your network.
Yeah, and our agents, they get also not just through our dashboards we see the alerts, but also we get them through our email and
Emails.
our phone notifications that this is going on. So you can see here that at 12:39 when I did the demo, we detected this from our demo machine. How important, eh? Wow.
So, yeah.
All right, guys. I hope you had fun. I hope this was very useful for you. And make sure that you subscribe to our channel. And that's it. Man, time flies, man.
Absolutely.
Time flies. We post 4 articles per week on cybersecurity. So if you go to LinkedIn and look for Purple Talk, Purple Talk is a newsletter that you can sign up to on LinkedIn, and will give you 4 articles on cybersecurity per week. Very, very informational. You get a lot of knowledge from it. And make sure you visit our site, rhino.io. And I'll see you next time. I'll see you on Friday, 12 o'clock sharp. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Andrew. You look like you're going to pass out right now.
No, I'm good, but I learned a lot, as I always do, listening to you. And today I didn't have to engage too much. And just thank you for the great show. Thank you for the information, and everybody, thank you so much for attending. We always love to have everybody interact with us every Friday. So see you next Friday at
12 o'clock, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to all of those channels. I'll see you next Friday. Cheers.